think we're live now. Are we all alive now?
Yeah.
Okay. Buki Jushing Medo Jam Rira Lingshi Nyende Genpadi Sange Shindu Nikte Uwargi Joku Namdak Shingla Chuparshu Nidam Gura Namadava Kamniyatayami Chidam Soki Chuknama Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chishingi Pesunamki Jola Pinchir Sange Juparshu Chidam Soki Chuknama Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chushingi Pesunamki Jola and Shir Sange Juparshu Chiram Soki Choknama Janchu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chushingi Pesunamki Jola and Shir Sange Juparshu. So we'll take a few minutes watching our mind in meditation and determining whether or not we're being attacked by any of the 5 obstacles. So let's go through those 5 obstacles before we do that. What's number 1? Gugyu, which is
Restless mind, and missing someone or something is the other translation. What did we call it? Like nostalgia, thinking about the past.
Yeah. So restless desire and then thinking about the past. So that's number 1. What's number 2? Malice or anger towards someone, right? Number 3? Dullness, cloudy mind. Drowsiness, yeah. Number 4, right?
Desire.
Yeah, but what kind of desire?
Towards the object of the senses.
Towards the object of the senses, right? And the last one? Tetsom, lazy doubt. Good. So I encourage you, those of us who keep Bodhisattva vows, we occasionally come across these and we do them, but I encourage you to memorize those and those 5 and check up when you're in your meditation, when your mind goes off the object, is it one of those 5 things? And then when you know, oh, yeah, that's what's happening, and then bring your mind back to the object. So we're only going to take a few minutes right now. We'll take about 5 minutes.
Should we meditate on the 5 and then watch for the 5, or meditate on a different object?
Use your mind as the object of meditation, and just focusing on your mind and just noting what comes in and out, and if it fits into any of those 5. And then when you notice your mind going off the object to one of those things, right? Bring it back to the mind. Does that make sense? So let's turn off cell phones, blow noses, sit up straight. I'm good, I have one, thank you. Pull your tummy in a little bit. It helps to lengthen your back so that the energy can run up and down your central channel well. And then take a few moments to go inside. You can use your breath to bring your attention into your body. Watching it at the tip of your nose. As it goes out and in. And then sink back and turn your attention to your awareness, your mind. And observe what is coming up in your mind. Is there dullness? Is there restless wandering? What is the state of your mind? Is it agitated by something, someone? bring your mind back to this room with 3 long exhales. Then open your eyes and stretch, move around a little. So as you try to meditate this short little amount of time, 5 minutes, did you notice any of these obstacles? Anybody want to share what they noticed?
Some dullness, like sleepiness. Oh, some sleepiness, like I could really feel that cloudy because it's such a cloudy day. It really felt like my mind was cloudy.
Anybody else?
Mind jumps back and forth. When you breathe in, jump, 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 jump.
Anybody else?
Thinking of the past, what somebody said yesterday. Thinking of the things that I need to do. Thinking the things that I need to do.
So if this is happening just for 5 minutes, I was in the cloudy, sleepy, and then I thought, well, what if I focused on my cloudy, sleepy mind? Could I get clarity on my cloudy, sleepy mind? You know, just playing with that idea. But you can see just for 5 minutes what we bring to our meditation cushion and how it doesn't allow us to sink into a deeper, quieter space where we will have more clarity and where we can see things better. So this is, you know, the advantage of doing this meditation. We begin to get familiar with our habitual thinking and our minds. And once we know what that is, then we can work with it. If we don't know what it is, we don't know what the gotcha is, that thing that we think is self-existent, we can't do anything about it. But once we do, then we can begin to do something about it. It's pretty cool. So we're going to move into the last chapter of Master Shantideva, which is chapter 9, the chapter on wisdom. It's parts 5 and 6. The reading begins on, I believe, what I wrote down here is page 100 in the reading. It's the contemplation on the perfection of wisdom. And it's the final course of the Bodhisattva's way of life. And this is this incredible, famous chapter on wisdom. Do you guys remember the story? Master Shantideva, well, he lived in a monastery, and he lived in a little room in a hut, and behind his back, mostly, he got teased a lot. People called him Mr. Three Thoughts. And what were those 3 things, are they? So all they thought he did was eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom. And so they thought they would embarrass him by inviting him to come and teach in the temple. And then they thought, well, let's really embarrass this guy. And so they piled cushion upon cushion upon cushion upon cushion till it was like 10 feet tall. And they were like, yeah, let's see what Mr. Three Thoughts, Mr. Busuku, can do. And so the day came, and he came into the monastery, and he looked. And all of a sudden, he was sitting right on top. And of course, everybody had been snickering before and laughing. It was like, yeah, let's see what he can do. And they were stunned, of course, the minute he just appeared on top of all of these cushions. And then they were like, okay, now teach us. Yeah, what do you have to teach us? You know, come on, come on. And he began to teach the Bodhisattva's way of life to them. And they got quieter and quieter and quieter because of this, I've got chills, because of this amazing teaching that he was giving to these people who thought he knew nothing, that he just sat around eating, sleeping, and pooping. And he gets to the 9th, and as he's teaching, he begins to rise higher and higher off the cushions. And he's just levitating higher and higher. And as he gets to the 9th chapter, to this last one, he's rising off the throne and he's into the air and he's going out through the monastery roof while he's continuing to teach. So there was a debate about how many chapters Master Shantideva ever really taught, because there were only a few people with clairvoyance who could follow him. So there was a debate in the monastery. Did he teach this chapter on wisdom or didn't he? Well, the bottom line is that this chapter is difficult in the least. Anyway, so he disappears, he just disappears, and they are like, where'd he go? And they sent out some monks to go and try and find him. And they eventually found him, I think, in Sri Lanka. And they asked him to come back to the monastery. And he was like, no, I'm not coming back. But you can find the teaching up on the rafter in the room I used to stay in. And so they did find the teaching there. And we have it, very fortunately. So that's the story of the 9th chapter, the chapter on wisdom. So Lord Maitreya, the future Buddha, has a take on the 9th chapter. And it's his presentation relating to wisdom. And Gyelse says, the first class that he ever had with Ken Rinpoche was about this. That was the first class. And I'm just going to read you what he said because I think it's so cool. He said, I remember the days when I was sitting in Ken Rinpoche's class. He would very kindly taught Gyelse J's commentary for over 10 years to us. He just taught it over and over and over again. And I remember getting to the 9th chapter and reading that my misperception of the world was causing all of my pain. Having gone there, because I was in pain, I was very interested. I remember staring at the door between the two buildings. And I remember staring at the door and trying to decide, what was I doing wrong? I would sit there in the kitchen and stare at the door and try to figure out what I was doing wrong. Okay? First of all, that's what I was trying to figure out. And then secondly, why should this cause me pain? If I just looked at the door a different way, things would change. I'd get younger and my hair would grow back. He actually had hair back then. But all these things would change. I remember being very frustrated that I couldn't really figure it out. It took me a while before I could. And Gyelse says that he thinks that Lord Maitreya's presentation is very sweet because it takes us across that bridge from, oh, you're looking at things the wrong way, to, well, how's that supposed to help me if I look at them differently? And Lord Maitreya bridges that for us. It explains why the way I misperceive things is causing my pain. And then how can I fix it? It's very practical. So Master Shantideva insists that you must see emptiness directly to eliminate all of your mental afflictions in their entirety. Meaning there are no mental afflictions left. At the path of seeing, you only see 3 of them, but it is the path then for all of them to cease, to eliminate them entirely. And this explanation comes from the Uttara Tantra. Ale just found the Uttara Tantra online last week. Fancy that. Geshe taught the Uttara Tantra. He taught it both here at Diamond Mountain, and then he continued the teaching in its entirety in 2004 in Tucson at the opening of Diamond Mountain University. It was the teaching that he did there before the first courses started here. And it's one of the 5 great books of Maitreya. And in English, it's called Higher Line, or Gyule Lama in Tibetan. It's called Uttara Tantra, but it is not a tantra. Tantra can also mean stream or line, right? And he dictated it to Arya Asanga. And we're going to go through 6 steps, which he explained, that cause all of our pain. So it's a very, very precious teaching because it explains how emptiness is going to get you out. Not only you out, but once you've done it, then you can get others out. That's the whole point. Until then, it's like somebody's sick trying to help somebody else who's sick. So the 6 steps are: 1, say Daksin, Niki, Bachakyu. Daksin, Niki, Bachakyu. You know, it all started before birth. You had that seed. Bachak is seed. So it's a seed in your mind that has been planted continually, chronically. It is a seed that you misunderstand your world. And it was planted in your past life, and the past life before that, and the past life before that. So you're born with this seed in your mind. You're misunderstanding. Ni is 2. Dak is nature of its own, or self in the sense of self-existent here. Zin is to hold something. So Dangzin means seeing things as self-existent. And you got it, which means you got the seed to see things self-existent. You're born with it. We don't have any choice if we're here in the desire realm. We were born with it. We can't, cut it out. There are other things we can do. So we're born with 2 seeds, or habits of seeing ourselves self-existently as a whole, me, and the self as my parts, mine. They exist independent of me, right? Of me projecting that view onto them. So the thing is, in our lives, is that all the suffering we undergo is triggered by trying to grasp to something that never existed anyway. What is that thing? We have to identify what's not there, and we have to identify it clearly. So if born in the desire realm, we have this seed for misunderstanding, right? Mm-hmm. There are 2 kinds of beings in the desire realm. One are emanations of enlightened beings, or bodhisattvas. And who it is, well, I don't know who they are. I don't know about you. So, but if you're here involuntarily, as I said last class, it's because we have those seeds in our mind to misperceive how the world exists. Number 2, say Dangzin, Niki. Dangzin, Niki. So these seeds ripen and cause us to have the 2 kinds of grasping to self-existence. Things and so. So we have this, the first seed, which is inborn, misunderstanding our world. That ripens into a seed of misunderstanding ourselves and me and mine, let's put it that way, of me and mine. So here, Dongzin, the tendency of holding to that of me and mine, we think that has its own nature. Right? It arises in our mind because we have that seed already when we're born. So this thought arises in our mind, this separation between me and mine. So you see how it starts from the moment we're born with that seed. It takes just 1 millisecond after we're born. The first conscious thought we have. Even in the womb, it's hot in here. It's wet in here. It's cramped in here. You know, as an infant in your mother's womb, you're totally just what we call the fetal position, right? Your knees are up, your arms are usually in, sometimes they punch out. But there's not a lot of room in there as you near term to being born. So your first conscious thought you have is already infected by misunderstanding of your world. And this misunderstanding infects your mind 24 hours a day after that. We have never, ever had a thought that is not infected in this way. This tendency to see things as self-existent. Are you conscious doing it? Are you aware that you're doing it? No. So this misperception of things existing self-existently, ignorantly, begins at birth. And it starts as soon as we're conscious. And it's possessed by every life form, from amoebas up to elephants to what's another big, it's kind of the biggest animal I can think of at the moment, right? What? A whale. Yeah. We're all making the same mistake. We're all born here. They're making the same mistake as we're making, right? 24 hours a day, right? So, is there a glass here? Am I correct to say that I am perceiving a glass? Yeah. But there's some kind of feeling or overlay of some kind of mode in which I am perceiving this glass, which is wrong. It's the same question Geshe asked. What's wrong with how I'm perceiving the door or the doorknob? You know, what am I doing wrong, right? It is the way I believe it to exist. The way I assume that it is. The way I feel about it is totally wrong all the time. Like that this, not only the glass, but the water is self-existently going to take away my thirst. Will it self-existently take away my thirst? No, only if I have given water to others will it take away my thirst. It's not self-existently a thirst quencher. Same with the glass. So I'm not mistaken, and you're not mistaken to think that there's a glass here, right? Or that there's water in it. That's not a mistaken perception, right? It's a correct perception. It's a sema. So is that Dongzin?
It's clouded by that.
It's clouded by Dongzin, but it's not Dongzin. You are having a correct perception that there is a glass, and we can call it a glass and perceive it as a glass. It is, and as Nicole said, it is clouded by Dongzin. It has It's infected by it, right? Do we have Danzen all the time? Yeah, we do. So even when we're thinking about something being self-existent, we're having that ignorance. We're thinking that self-existent thought is self-existent, right? Even when we're not thinking about it, we have it. We were born with it, right? It's just like you were born with blue eyes or brown eyes. There ain't nothing you can do about it at that point, right? It's what you got to work with. So we have this ignorance to work with. We're always misperceiving the glass. Seeing it as a glass is not wrong. There's something inherent about the way that we think about the glass that is wrong. So when we think about it, about our ignorance about the glass, it's there. But even when we're not thinking about it, it's still there, right? So even as I explain or we talk about the lack of self-existence to this glass, that it has no nature of its own, we're still misunderstanding it. So I'm misunderstanding it even as I say it. So then the next step is, it causes you, because we see we have this ignorance and we see things as separate from us. We're forced to see them that way from our ignorant seeds. So number 3 then is, because it causes you to look at things separately like this, we see things as things we like and things we don't like, as attractive and unattractive from their own side. So this is more like when the mind goes, do I like it or do I not like it? I like that thing, I don't like that thing. I like what he said, I don't like what he said. I like a cloudy day, I don't like a sunny day. It's all of these, I like, I don't like, I like, I don't like, I like, I don't like. And we begin to divide the world up into what we like and what we don't like. Okay? Ignorant. Ignorant. If you can recognize that this way of thinking is coming from a seed, from your karma, from past life, seeds that you planted, not from their own side, but independent. Independent from your karmic projections is how we see them. Then Arya Nagarjuna says, as long as a person possesses the habit as grasping to the heaps as true, the heaps, the 5 senses and everything, for just this long will they also grasp to the thought, sorry, it's too many T's, T's in this, to the thought that these are me. So think of your favorite ice cream. Try to get in touch with that emotion. My favorite ice cream. What does that bring up in you? Or feeling its pleasantness. And feeling that its pleasantness is a quality in the ice cream itself. Chocolate has in and of itself is pleasant. Right? Now I'm sure there's somebody here who doesn't like chocolate ice cream. There we go. Nicole doesn't like chocolate ice cream. Is it pleasant in and of itself? No. It's it's unpleasant in and of itself, right? So, is it true then? Like, what are the necessary consequences if chocolate was pleasant in and of itself? Nicole would like it, and so would everybody else in the world. Some people don't even like ice cream. Okay?
Crazy.
So that quality of it being the tastiest ice cream or the best ice cream, where does it come from? Does it belong to the ice cream? Did the ice cream bring it with it? No. Where did it come from? It came from a seed in the past. It came from me. It didn't come from the ice cream seed. It came from my seed in the past. So that perception of it being that way, that feeling that it is that way, is coming from me. Since we already decided it wasn't coming from the ice cream, right? Or we already decided a few classes back that things weren't coming from some doc or solo, some random being up there running our lives. So we're kind of stuck with, it didn't come from the ice cream. It didn't come from outside of me, from outer space, randomly hitting the ice cream carton. It must come from me. It gets pretty obvious, unless you can think of some other choices. So I challenge you to think of some other choices and check them out. Why? Because everybody has their favorite ice cream. Everybody has their favorite song. We don't have to. So this is a very, very, very simple explanation, an accurate description of emptiness. We don't have to think about black holes or cosmic dust or auras or watching things fade in and fade out. It's just the emptiness of chocolate ice cream. And everything has emptiness, just as the chocolate ice cream does. So number 3, Sumen Yije says, your mind thinks of the pleasantness the wrong way. It doesn't realize that that pleasant thing, the pleasantness of the ice cream, doesn't belong to the ice cream. So when somebody says something you don't like, is it coming because God made it come so that it would give you some teaching? Does it self-existently come from the other person? Where did it come from? It keeps coming back to that. And the beauty of it is, we can look around and we can see a world around us. And we can see the pain and suffering. And we have a way to change it. It's not stuck. We're not waiting for somebody else to fix it. We have a way, a very clear way, to change our world and the world of others. Because that's all our world is. And that's the beauty of it. If it were stuck, if we were stuck in that place, then it would truly be disheartening and probably really not possible to continue to live, because there would be no hope. But there is hope, because this path shows us a way out. It gives us step by step. It's like, just do this, and then do this, and then do this, and then do this. But you have to do it. You can't just sit back, because it ain't gonna work. Unless you have really, really good seeds from a past life. And then you get, and once you plant the seeds, then you continue to put those seeds grow and grow and grow. And you get, almost feels like you're being led at that point, rather than have led. Someone is leading you, like on like a horse, you're leading a horse. Well, your good karma is leading you. You're being tamed. The wild mind of you, the wild horse mind is being tamed. And you're being led very beautifully and graciously by holy beings around you. So, you know, where did that, so Nicole, what's your favorite ice cream?
Oh, so many.
Just give me one. Not chocolate.
Peanut butter cup.
Okay. So where did Nicole's peanut butter cup ice cream come from?
I must have given something really good to someone. I must have given someone something very delicious, like so delicious you can't even imagine. So good.
So just in case you can't hear it, she said, I must have given something so delicious to someone that you can't even imagine how good it was.
She gave chocolate ice cream to someone who loves it.
She gave chocolate ice cream to somebody who loves it. And it doesn't need to be a lot, because what's one of the laws of karma? It grows. It could have just been a spoonful, and it grows. So, how do we get our peanut butter cup ice cream? If it were self-existently delicious, she wouldn't have to share anything. But if she doesn't give something delicious to somebody, there will be a day when she goes to the supermarket and there won't be any peanut butter cup ice cream there, even though she's got money in her pocket and they had it 2 days ago, because karma also wears out. It's another law of karma, right? So, what is what would be the correct way of seeing ice cream? Its qualities.
Like a blank slate.
It's like a blank slate. And if you wanted to continue experiencing that peanut butter cup ice cream as the most delicious thing in the world, what would you do?
Give others what they want.
Give others what they want, right? So if we understand this, it's really quite simple. Putting it into action is sometimes a little more difficult because we forget. And it's only because we forget, because we've heard this time and time again. But if we remember to offer something to someone with the wish that they get bliss and I get bliss, then it plants the seeds for it to continue. Rejoicing about it later waters those seeds. And then you will have peanut butter cup ice cream whenever you want it, or whatever it is that you want. What happens if you don't want to share your peanut butter cup ice cream because you like it so much? It ain't going to be there. It won't last. those seeds will wear out. Those seeds will wear out. Because you're thinking that its deliciousness comes from it, not from you being kind to others. You're misunderstanding its nature, its qualities. So number 4, say duchak,
Ducha,
dan shedang,
Shedam,
ki. Duchak,
Ducha,
dan shedang,
Shedam,
ki. So duchak is the opposite of understanding, where things come from. It's our ignorant reaction to the ice cream. So duchak dan shedang generally translates ignorantly liking and ignorantly disliking things. And ki means grows. So du is desire. So what is ignorant liking? It's wanting something in a way that you don't want others to have. Like, I want all that peanut butter cup ice cream for myself. They might not have it in the store next time. I want to keep it for me. This is ignorant liking, right? And shedang is ignorant disliking. Like when you go to the grocery store and you go over and you look at the peaches and you start picking them up and you want the best for yourself, right? You leave the bruised ones for somebody else. That's an example of ignorant disliking that probably most people do. There's a wonderful teacher, Salam Lee, who was from Indonesia but lives in Australia. And I remember Salam teaching a class many years ago when we lived on the other side of the mountains here. And it was during quiet retreat teachings. And he talked about, go into the store and just pick the first one up. Don't sort through them. Just take the first one and leave the best for someone else. I was like, yeah. It was kind of, in those days, it was like this amazing idea. Leave the best for someone else. Give them the benefit. So intelligent liking is sharing what you like and giving others what they like, because you want to continue to have peanut butter cup ice cream. You want to continue to have maple covered donuts, depending on who we're talking about here, right? You want to continue to have tofu. You want to continue to have friends and a job that you like. Right? Help make those things happen for others. That's where this correlation comes in, of if you want a good, healthy relationship, go and find somebody who is lonely. It comes right here. Is it wrong to like peanut butter cup ice cream? No. Absolutely no. Why isn't it wrong? By itself, it doesn't cause any harm. Do you think Lord Buddha might like ice cream? You think Geshe Michael likes ice cream? Like Ben and Jerry's? What is it? What is Ben and Jerry's in? The one that has cherries and chocolate chips in it. Cherry Garcia. He used to eat it all the time. I don't know if he still likes it or not. So sure, the Buddha, it's possible, let's say that the Buddha likes ice cream. Not everybody likes ice cream. Does the Buddha dislike seeing people suffering? Yes. So the Buddha has likes and dislikes. An enlightened being has likes and dislikes. Does an enlightened being dislike the fact that your suffering is caused by yourself? Because we're just ignorant? Sure. Does an enlightened being dislike the fact that we are causing suffering to ourselves just because we're ignorant? Yeah, of course. Does an enlightened being dislike the fact that people send themselves to the hell realms? Yes, of course. And Buddha would stop it if he could, or she could. Can somebody, if Lord Buddha could have stopped our pain, he would have done it by now. Right? The only way. So first of all, is that enlightened being disliking things ignorantly? The suffering of beings? No. So ignorant liking. Now, peanut butter cup ice cream does not sound so good to me. So what would I do with liking something with wisdom? I would buy Nicole peanut butter cup ice cream and I would get myself chocolate coconut bliss, right? Then everybody's happy. We're both happy, right? That way, will peanut butter cup ice cream and chocolate coconut bliss stay in the world? Yeah. So in the wheel of life, right there in the center is a rooster or a pigeon. That is dukkha. That is ignorant liking. And Shedang is the snake, your ignorant dislike. And they're holding the tail of a pig, which is ignorance itself. So we have ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, and ignorance itself. And we make every choice in our life based on these three. They cause our suffering. The ignorance which drives the ignorant and dislike. I like her, I don't like him, I like this, I don't like that. I mean, just reflect on your life and see if it's true. Don't take my word for it. So number 5, say Lesak. Lesak. Anybody remember what the word lay is in Tibetan? Karma. And sak is to do it. So you ignorantly like and dislike things, and then you do something to either keep that thing or get rid of it. Kill, steal, sexual misconduct, lying, harsh words, gossip, craving, ill will, wrong view. Sound familiar? So they come into our mind, this thought, I want that thing. And we do something to get it. That then, that can hurt somebody else. Right? I want that boy. I want that purse. I want that money. I want that land. And I want the oil under the ground. And then you set in motion just that thought from that ignorance of thinking that it's out there self-existently then produces this whole big problem, right? This whole negative thing goes from there. So it comes into your mind and you collect new negative seeds. And it's all based on ignorant liking or disliking. You don't like somebody, you yell at them. Sets in motion another cycle of you yell at them, somebody yells at you, you yell back at them, they yell back at you. Over and over and over again. Until you realize where that yelling is coming from. Oh, let's see what happens if I stop yelling. It may take a while, and it may not, depending on how much bring up. So, I don't, it says it's still live. What are you getting over there? Do I need to restart? Yep, great. Just a little blip. So number 6, the last thing. So we have this ignorant seed that we're born with. And then we start thinking about things ignorantly, that me and mine really being everything else, right? And everyone else are separate. And then from that, we like things and dislike things, or like people and dislike people. From that, we create a karma. And then the last step in that is say, korwar, kor. Korwar, kor. Korwa, kor is a wheel, a cycle. So we're talking about the samsaric cycle. We're talking about a vicious cycle. So what's the only way to say have orange sorbet in your life if you don't like it? Make other people eat it. Right? Give them something. Well, I think, I'm going to not spend all my money on this dinner for my friends. I'll just buy something that probably most of them won't like. And, it's that kind of attitude. It's that kind of thinking. Right? You get chocolate for yourself and you give everybody else orange sorbet. Why do you do that? Because you like things stupidly and you dislike things stupidly, right? Number 4. And that's because we have a wrong way of looking at good things and bad things. Number 3. And that's caused by this habit of our mind that we're born with, because we had it in our past, right? And we had it in our past life. So we were born with it, number 1. So if you understand the emptiness of peanut butter cup ice cream, if you understand the emptiness of the person who is yelling at you, if you understand the things that you like and dislike and where they are coming from. So we're talking here about emptiness and seeds, right? You can stop responding to the things that you like or dislike ignorantly if you understand this. Right? You can then stop collecting bad karma. And if you stop collecting bad karma, your life, Jed, gradually, that's the word I was trying to think of, your life gradually becomes sweeter and sweeter, and happier and happier. And the people around you become sweeter and sweeter, and happier and happier. And then your good karma eventually forces you to see yourself as an enlightened being, living in a paradise. So this is what people need to know. Share it with others. How this works, why we're suffering, how to get out of it. Right? This is the most important thing, is how to help people out of their suffering. And we all have different degrees of suffering, and we are all suffering. Otherwise, we would not be here in this realm. And this realm, there's one good thing about this realm, is that for most of the population, whether they be animals or humans that we can see, there's enough goodness to keep you going. And there's also enough suffering to say, hey, this isn't good enough. There's got to be something else. This can't be the best place to live. There's too much suffering. And there's enough good to give us hope and to keep us going. Just in the people we meet when we go to the store, little kindnesses along the way. It's like, wow. And they exist. And the more that we do those little kindnesses, the more they will appear in our lives. So this is the greatest kindness you can ever do for anybody. Teach them how to get out of their own suffering. Don't go out and proselytize. Don't go out and force them. Like there are, certain people who come knocking at your doors and try to tell you how to run your life. Don't do it like that. Do it through your actions. Do it through your kindness. Do it through your sweetness. You don't have to say you're a Buddhist. Just be an example. And live up to your own ideals and working to become someone who can truly teach someone how to take their suffering away. It is sorely needed in this world. There is so much. Teach them Lord Maitreya's process and how it works. And then they can break the cycle for themselves. Refuse to return violence with violence. Refuse to return anger with anger. Refuse to return yelling with yelling. Refuse to return selfishness with selfishness. Don't wait for the other person to stop. It's got to start with you. Because where did it all come from to begin with? It came from you, right? You created them. You want to stop them? Stop. Stop doing it yourself. Figure out what it is that you're doing and stop it. So we have to break this cycle. Where can we break it? Can we break it at that inborn seed that we were born with? What number do you think is the first place to break this cycle? But between 3 and 4, once you perceive the goodness of, peanut butter cup ice cream, as being a quality of that ice cream, once you perceive that that's not true, or once you perceive that it is, at 3 or 4, you're already in trouble. So at 4 and 5, you're already feeling that this dislike or wanting for something selfishly, you're going to collect karma. If you don't understand that the goodness is coming from your side, you're already in trouble. So 3 is a little too late, right? Between 2 and 3 is where you break it. You stop thinking of things in the wrong way. You stop thinking of things as self-existent. Yeah, it looks good, it tastes good, but it's only good because I've been good. You want it to keep tasting good and being good and looking good? Do I want to keep seeing beautiful salads and beautiful offerings? What do I have to do? Gratitude? Really important thing. Be generous. Share with others. Treat the goodness with goodness back. Right? So, I refuse not to share my ice cream. I refuse not to share my home. I refuse to not give people rides. I want my car to keep driving, right? Because that would be the stupidest thing I could do if I did those things. So this is the essence of Master Shantideva's 9th chapter. If good and bad deeds are like an illusion, how can they still function to give good and bad results? Function to give good and bad results. If everything is a projection, how can I create good karma? Because they are a projection. That's why it works. That's how it works. We see ourselves doing good. That plants a seed to do good again in the future. And it has nothing to do whether the object is real or not. The giver, the gift, and the receiver all exist as our projections. And they function perfectly well. I can give this glass of water to Ale and she can accept it. If I had different karma, I would see it as deathless nectar and see it myself offering it to her as an enlightened being. It's just a projection. It's empty of any self-nature of its own. So they function perfectly well to produce a Buddha paradise and a Buddha body. I think I want that. And I don't think that's ignorant wanting. So there are two ways. So we have these mental afflictions around things caused by our ignorance, seeing things as me and mine, liking and disliking, and then we have a mental affliction and we do something. So say nun gyurwa. Nun gyurwa. Nun is manifest and gyur has become. So these are two ways to experience mental afflictions. So this is the manifest side. They manifest either in ourselves or seeing them in others. And we'll talk about it a little bit more. Say bakla, nyelwa. Bakla, nyelwa. Bakla is seed, like in bakchak, right? And nyelwa means sleeping. So this is like a seed that's sleeping, a mental affliction that's sleeping. It's dormant, or like a bear in the winter sleeps. It's dormant, it's latent. It's the one you didn't know you had until you experience it. It's just laying quietly, and then something triggers it, and it ripens. So there's two kinds, the one that's manifesting, and then there's the one that's sleeping. You can't say that you've permanently eliminated your anger just because you aren't experiencing it at this moment in time. Right? True nirvana is the total cessation or the elimination of both the manifest mental affliction and the dormant mental affliction. That means that one that was dormant ain't ever gonna ripen. So in Master Shantideva's Contemplation 12, he talks about destroying mental afflictions forever. Wouldn't that be sweet? He says that even a deep understanding of the 16 aspects of the 4 Arya truths is inadequate to eliminate the dormant seeds from mental afflictions. In fact, you don't truly understand the 4 Arya truths until you perceive emptiness directly. And having perceived emptiness directly, that gives you the power to get rid of the seeds. And then someone says to Master Shantideva, you know, though, it's scary to meditate on emptiness, to think that you have no solid self-existent self. It's like, where am I? Who am I? There's nothing here that's me, but some projection. If you really think about it, because we do think that there's something solid here, it can be very scary. To think about you are just a projection. And he says, he points out that the tendency to see things as self-existent is the cause for all the suffering in the world. So if we're going to be frightened, we should be frightened at that. The wisdom which realizes emptiness in the direct perception of emptiness is the cause of ending all the pain in the world, and thus all the fear in the world. What do we fear most? Pain. Whether it's mental pain or physical pain. Do we have any other fear? We may fear that we won't have our next meal. That's pain. We may fear for somebody driving crazy on the road. That's pain. So if we can eliminate all the pain in the world, then we can eliminate all fear in the world. So we need to meditate on it properly, because it all comes from misunderstanding our world. So we misunderstand our world, and there's 2 different kinds of wrong ideas. Say Denzin, Kuntak. Denzin, Kuntak. Den means true. Zin is to hold onto something. And Kuntak is learned ideas or projection here. So the learned, in quote, form of the tendency to grasp to things as existing in truth, that means to be self-existent. Right? A tendency to believe that things have their own nature, which depends basically upon the mind being affected by specific philosophical beliefs, such as it came from God, or chemicals, or I came from the stork. You know, there's a European story that the stork brought you and put you on the chimney, and that's where you came from when you were born. And all the things that we've learned from our parents, from our schools, from our communities, from our culture, from scientists, from friends, from any kind of religious institution that we've gone to. So this is like, these are like learned beliefs in self-existence. Say Tsowar, Jupte, Lo, Gyurwa Latu, Gyupe, Denzin. Mainly, it's a tendency to see things as self-existent, which always relies upon someone teaching you a belief system, and therefore changing your mind in that way. So That's one way we learn wrong ideas. Like, 1,000 years ago, they believed the world was flat. Now we have different information that says, no, the earth is round. Given at that time, it wasn't a wrong idea. It was how they perceived the world. Now we have a different perception. And 1,000 years from now, they may look back at us and, what were those people thinking? Their world was round. Who knows, right? So we learn things these ways. The second one is say Denzen, Lenke. Denzen, Lenke. And this is the tendency that we're born with to see things as self-existent. That was that step number 1, right? In Lord Maitreya's teaching. So the definition of the innate belief in self-existence, the one that we were born with. Say Tokma, Mepe, Ne, Jesu Shukpa, Jukte, Lo, Gyurma, Gyurni, let's try that again. Gyurma, Gyurniga, La Yupe, Denzen Ni. The innate form of the tendency to believe that things have their own nature, which has existed in our minds from beginningless time. This is a definition, remember, of innate. The belief in innate self-existence, and which is possessed by all normal living beings. Both those whose minds have been or have not been affected by specific philosophical beliefs. So we have these two tendencies to wrong ideas, right? So again, the question comes up, when can we eliminate these two tendencies, right, of wrong ideas? Say Tonglam. Tonglam. What is Tonglam? The path of seeing. So the learned form is eliminated during the path of seeing. What are we seeing? Emptiness directly, right? Not intellectually, but directly. So although one still sees things as self-existent, after coming out of the direct perception of emptiness, you no longer believe in it because you have seen directly the ultimate nature of things. You know that you have not been seeing anything correctly up to that very moment. And nobody's going to tell you different. When you've experienced something, can anybody tell you, no, that didn't happen? It's like, no, I know it happened. I was there. I experienced it. Can they tell you that you didn't experience it? They might question your experience of it, but it is your personal experience of it. And there's nothing that anybody can take away from that. Because they don't know. Even if they were there with you, they had their own experience of it. That's why you can get, two friends or two siblings who've grown up in the same household arguing about what was said or what happened, because we each have our own experience of it. So when you have the direct perception of emptiness, you are having the direct perception of emptiness. And you have seen it. You have seen the ultimate way things are, and you've seen that you never saw anything correctly before. And then the second place is at the 8th Bodhisattva level, which is called Sagyepe. Sagyepe. Sa is ground, and Gepa or Gepa is 8. So it's the 8th ground or the 8th level. They talk about the Bodhisattva grounds, the Bodhisattva levels. This is nirvana. So during the 8th Bodhisattva level, one eliminates the manifest form of the innate form. So one who has finished off their mental afflictions by definition has eliminated the manifest perception of seeing things as self-existent.
So the word and the manifest. Because we have innate or learned. So it's innate or manifest.
There are two, innate or manifest. The innate well, here we're talking about we did have the innate and the manifest, but here we're also talking about the learned form. So that could be, as I'm perceiving it, that could be under the manifest, but we're talking about the learned form of wrong view and the innate wrong view. And at Tonglam, the learned form of wrong ideas, wrong view, is completely eliminated. At the 8th Bodhisattva level, my notes do say, and it would be good for me to go back and check on it, that one eliminates the manifest form of the innate form. So I'm going to mark that and go back and check on that.
The manifest form of mental afflictions we talked about. And that's eliminated.
Yes. So yeah, I need to go back and check what my notes say, because my notes go on to say that when you've finished off the mental afflictions, by definition, you have eliminated the manifest perception of seeing things as self-existent. And you also have eliminated the innate self-existence. So you've eliminated that seed at that point. The first bodhisattva level occurs when you see emptiness directly with bodhicitta in your heart. That's the first bodhisattva level. And so then the first 6 bodhisattva levels correspond to perfecting the 6 perfections in an extraordinary form. At the 8th bodhisattva level, I have a question here, which I don't know if anybody else knows it, but at the 8th bodhisattva level, do you lose the ability to see things in a conventional way? Can you still perceive dependent arising?
So see it, but you know what it is.
Well, that you get at the first bodhisattva level, because when you've had the direct perception of emptiness, but when you reach nirvana, it was just something that kind of came up in my mind. It was like I was thinking about it, and so I kind of put it in here. It's like, well, once you've reached the 8th bodhisattva level, do you still see dependent arising? Do you still see things in a conventional way? You still have the subtle seeds, right, to see things self-existently, but they're not manifesting.
Would they say that Buddha is like the only one who can see both the emptiness and the well-being? So I think that you could still see that you are.
So if an enlightened being can still see both truths, dependent arise, the words are hard to come by, right? Deceptive reality and ultimate reality at the same moment, then they are perceiving how things arise dependently upon other things and upon projections. Or they're seeing us seeing that. I don't know.
Which is kind of the same thing.
So at the path of no more learning, you have to be able to get to the point of omniscience. So what are they doing there? There are subtle seeds that block them from seeing. Are there subtle seeds that block them from seeing all sentient beings? These are just questions and thoughts. Okay. So we talked about learned ideas and how they arise. So I'm going to give you 3 learned wrong ideas. Master Shantideva presents these 3 ideas, and they're all based on a mistaken belief in self-existence, right? As all wrong ideas would be. And they're focused on how we see ourselves, where we come from, and what our ultimate basis is. Say Gansak. So the first one is Gansak, Dang, Pungpo, Jewo, Dang, Kopo, Shinju Zinpa. The tendency to see the person and their parts is similar to a master and his servants. To a master and his servants. We view ourselves as though we are some kind of master. And that our parts, our body, our mind, our idea of me, are servants which we can tell what to do. Right? At the moment, if I say, raise your left arm, you think you have the power to raise your left arm. When my mother lay in her bed sick, and I would say, raise your left arm, even if she wanted to, she did not have the power to do it. The mind-body connection to be able to do that had weakened. Right? So we think we're in control of and separate from our body and our mind, as if we had some kind of separate soul, or there was something separate, right? And so we tell our arms to move, we tell our mind to behave. Well, when I try to tell my mind to behave, I know I have no control over it, or very little, right? Because it just sometimes does not behave the way I want it to. It is like a naughty child. It corresponds to the idea of a soul in Western religion, or a me, which is totally distinct from the parts of the person. So this is one learned wrong idea. The second one is say Dulchen, Chame, De, Zimpa. The tendency to hold, this is number 2, the tendency to hold that our ultimate reality lies in objectively real, partless atoms. So this is kind of the idea of science, of modern science. Of course, now they know that atoms have parts. Do those parts have parts? I don't know how far they've gone. or explaining that the fine points of what goes on in the brain is all based on chemistry, or even that our emotions are all based on chemistry. I was listening to a TED Talk the other day, very interesting. Different scientists talking about our DNA and whether you could influence your DNA and change it. It was really quite interesting. And some said yes, and some said no. Some said yes, you can. There's a learned way to train your DNA so that you can change a trajectory, a negative trajectory that you're on, which was really kind of cool. But this would be, that it's all chemically based. So if we can get in there and change the chemical makeup, we can do this, and this, which is what we do for mental illness. But you take that chemical away, and it hasn't changed anything. It's dependent upon some outside chemical thing. So they would say you're made of tiny particles, which are the fundamental building blocks of reality, as in your basic nature. As in your basic nature, it being just particles made up of atoms, which is pretty much the scientific view of what everything is made up of, right, in our world. Number 3, say Shepa, Kechik, Chame, De, Zimpa. Zimpa is to hold again. Chame is the smallest. Kechik, Kechik. Instant by instant, in moments. And Shepa is mind. So your life is made up of infinitely short, self-existent instances of mind. So it's like your life, the totality of your life, the sum total of your life is made up of all these self-existent little increments, little bits of experience. You are the sum total of all the moments of consciousness that you have had. And you believe that your life is a series of events of awareness, which have their own independent reality from you. Those moments of experience. But the middle way school says, you are not the sum of your parts, nor any one of your parts. You're not your hand, for example. Is Gyelse here? Is Gyelse in her big toe? Is Jade in her nose? Is that, if we just saw the nose, would we say Jade, right? There has to be something else there. We have to be seeing all these parts and putting them together and putting the idea of me on top of that. It's an idea, it's a concept. Otherwise, Chaz's sister would have known I was Gyelse from the moment she first saw me. Or that you were Jade. Is there anything inherently going, Gyelse, 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 Jade, 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 Holly? Is there anything inherently in that belief that I am a solid, self-existent thing? Our karma forces us to impose a particular identity on these parts. It also forces us to see ourselves get old and die. By collecting a great collection of powerful good karma, we will be forced, just as we are now, to see ourselves with the identity that we've put on ourselves now, to see ourselves with a different identity. The identity of a deathless, enlightened being. So the truth is that no object is the sum of its parts until you can think of it being that way. I remember when studying, was it logic? It was like, anyway, got into the parts of a car. So, you take away the steering wheel, is it still a car? You take all the wheels off of it, is it still a car? You get rid of the windshield, is it still a car? You get rid of the door, is it still a car? And you've just got this kind of shape. And your mind still says, car. At what point is it no longer a car? It can't function as a car anymore. But our mind fills it all in and says, car. And another one that always made me think of is in this book called The Little Prince by Anton Saint-Exupéry. The Little Prince draws a picture of a boa constrictor, and it kind of goes like this. And I don't remember the whole thing, but it looks like a hat. And somebody thinks it's just a hat. It's our projections that make something what it is. Especially ourselves and others. And it's that we keep trying to get back to. Like, what is causing those projections? How can I stop those projections? So, until we conceive of something as being so, we can't say it's just the sum of its parts, because it's all due to our past karma. So you know what? We actually consist of nothing other than our karmic seeds going off in rapid succession. All we are. Cooking. So, if that's all we are, who collects karma? If a person changes moment to moment, life to life, who collects karma? The person who experiences the karma ripening is different than the person who planted the seed, right? Even if you planted it 5 minutes ago, you're different than you were 5 minutes ago. So when the result comes around, the person who planted the seed is gone. And Buddhists say, you are a different being, moment to moment. And I think scientists would even say that. We're constantly sloughing off cells and things are changing all the time and all of that. So we are the sum total of our karmas, which ripen at the rate of 65 karmas per instant, giving us all of our perceptions. And as those karmas ripen and wear out, we change. So some non-Buddhists said, well, he asked Master Shantideva this, well, if you're a different person next year, how could it be that the old you karma ripens upon the new you? Since they're two different people? I mean, it's a perfectly logical question. And Master Shantideva gives 3 replies to the view that there must be an unchanging soul or core person, that there must be something unchanging there. So he says, the person who collects the karmic cause and the person who experiences the result of that karma are not the same two people. Master Shantideva says to the non-Buddhist that the soul changes over time, and the person also has changed. So their person has the same problem too, the person that they're talking about. A person who creates and the person who receives are two different people, he says. No problem there. So that's his first answer. His second answer is, it's impossible to experience the result at the same time as the creation of the cause. It's impossible to experience the result of a seed at the same time that the seed is being planted. Right? It's got to be planted first before it can ripen. If it were the same person, then you would have to commit the deed and realize the result at the same moment. Because the person changes moment to moment. So the self must be a changing, fluid experience and not self-existent. The self is nothing more than ripening karma. And the third thing he says is, it's okay to say that the person who causes the karma and the one who experiences it, experiences the result, are the same person going on in a stream. He says you can call the stream of karma over time one person. Although the continuing self, that is flowing through time, is not self-existently the same person over time. It is true insofar as your projections cause you to experience the continuity of you or of me. It's okay to call the perceptions of yourself and my perceptions of your perceptions of yourself now and your perceptions of yourself in 2 years and all of those moments in between me. He says it's okay to do that. I only exist in dependence on perceiving myself as me in this way. And it's a quote me. It's not like a capital me. It's a nominal me. I don't have any other self-existent nature other than that projection placed on these parts, placed on those moments to moments, and having some projection of past and future and present, and putting that all together and saying, this is me, and that was me when I was 5 years old. Now, I'm not the same me as I was when I was 5 years old. I'm not the same me as I was 2 weeks ago, for that matter. There is no other self-existent nature based on my parts and experiences. So, what leads me to think and perceive of myself as this type of me? My past mental imprints, my past seeds, right? Which are ripening my karma in this very moment. I am the constant flow and shifting of karma. The karma that's particular to me, right? It's not that I have karma. I am karma ripenings. And this enables me to be able to change into a different type of being. It enables us to be able to change our worlds by accumulating incredible amounts of positive mental imprints. Then you become those ripenings of those imprints. Right? I will turn into, meaning I will perceive myself as a being who doesn't suffer and die. So what is the real nature of me? You're nothing more than a mental concept. This is the highest school speaking here, Majjhimika, Prasangika. You're nothing more than a mental concept projected on a basis of parts. Meaning we are our karma and nothing but that. Which is great because we can change our karma. We're not stuck. It's not like we can't change it. We can. And that, for me, is the beauty of this path. I don't just have to give up and say, oh, it's somebody's will that this is happening to me. Dang it, okay, this is what's happening in the moment, but I can change it in the future. So the sum of the parts of the object are not the object until you perceive of them as being so. Emptiness is the fact that there is nothing self-existent about me. I am not one of my parts. I'm not the sum of my parts. The mind labels them as my parts. And it's forced on us by seeds that are ripening from the past. There is no me that's independent of this process. That's all I am. So, through my behavior, I can create the causes for future karma to ripen and never have to see myself die. I may see myself lose my body, this body, but in place, let's hope I see myself with an angel's body. In this one, it's a broken body. Anybody who's over 40 knows that, or close to 40, You know that it's just like downhill from here. Unless you do something to run up that downward escalator, right? So I don't have to be upset anymore. Dog says, there's no such thing as a pen. All I can see is a chew toy. Check it out. Check this out. Keep your vows well. For 6 months, for a year. If it doesn't work, the worst thing that can happen is you just get old and die. Right? What's there to lose in trying and really putting your effort into it? You become more kind. You become more moral. You have more love and compassion. You feel younger, healthier, happier. Or if you don't bother, maybe you'll be less kind, less moral, less happy. Illness, aging, death. I know which I would choose. So the meditation assignment is 15 minutes a day. And I, do these meditations, not just do each of them at least for a week, please. So that means 10 weeks of meditation, just for 15 minutes. I'm sure you have other things you may be meditating on. Reviewing each of the 6 steps. in the process that Lord Maitreya outlined as to what causes all of our suffering, how our suffering begins, and how we perpetuate it. Puki Chuchin Metodra Rirabling Jin Yende Genpati Sangye Shindu Nite Uwarki Joku Nanda Shingma Chuparshu Idam Guranamana Kamyatayami Kewaku Sunam Yeshe Sosochi Sunam Yeshe Mejue Dampa Kuni Toparsho. So let's also dedicate in our minds all of the goodness of thinking about emptiness, about thinking about seeds, and send that out to somebody you know who is suffering. With the wish that at some point you'll be able to share with them a way out of their suffering, and that they will be able to hear you.